If you think burnout is normal, you've already lost, because the highest performers in the world are not walking around exhausted or feeling foggy and running on caffeine just to function. And I know that because I have spent over a decade working specifically with high-performing professionals, more than 200 of them. Founders responsible for entire companies, executives making decisions that can't be wrong, artists performing in front of thousands of people night after night, and the pattern's always the same. They don't fall apart because they can't handle the pressure. They fall apart because they've been taught to ignore what their body is telling them. And eventually it just catches up. Burnout is not natural. It's the result of a system that's just breaking down faster than you can recover. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly why that happens, and more importantly, what actually fixes it. We've normalized something that should be a warning sign. You wake up tired, you crash in the afternoon. You rely on caffeine just to feel normal. Your sleep is inconsistent. Your body just doesn't respond the way it used to. And instead of asking why, we explain it away. It's just stress. I'm just busy. This is what success is supposed to look like. It's not. That's not success. That's your body adapting in a way that you don't want it to. Burnout is not overwork. Burnout is chronic stress without recovery. Your body can handle pressure, a lot of it actually, but only if it has time to come back down. And if it doesn't, your system never really resets. And over time, your baseline shifts. And in a minute, I'm going to explain why burnout doesn't feel like burnout and why it actually just feels like normal life. Now, every time you're under stress, your body activates. You get adrenaline, you get cortisol, you get glucose, and it prepares you to perform. That's actually a good thing. But there's supposed to be a shutdown period, a time that your body comes back to baseline and your body can go into the rest and digest nervous system. And most people never really get that, or they don't get a lot of it. They just stay in that fight or flight because stress doesn't stop when work stops or work ends. It follows you home. It's on your phone, into your sleep, into your workouts, into your food habits. So your body stays elevated all the time. I actually worked with an executive who told me that I'm doing everything right. I just don't feel like myself. He was training 5-6 days a week, eating clean, staying disciplined, but he was only sleeping 5 to 6 hours a night. He was constantly in meetings, always connected. His body wasn't broken. It was just overwhelmed. And the first thing we actually did was we went from training 5-6 days a week down to 3 moderate intensity strength training days and replace those 2 other days with low intensity cardio days. That was it. No dramatic overhaul, just creating space for his nervous system to come back down into that rest and digest. And within 3 weeks, his energy came back, sleep improved, and he started to just feel so much better. Not from doing more, but from finally coming down. Now, burnout doesn't happen to people who don't care. It happens to people who push hard because the traits that built your success are the same ones creating the problem, believe it or not. You can override fatigue if you keep pushing hard enough. You can push through the exhaustion. You can ignore all the signals. You've trained yourself to keep going no matter what, at all costs. That works phenomenally in business, but it has a good potential to destroy your physiology. Now, here's where I see a lot of people get it wrong. Burnout doesn't feel intense. Actually, I'd say for a lot of us, it feels very normal. You don't wake up thinking all the time, I'm just burnt out. You think that when it's too late. I would say you probably wake up thinking, I'm just really tired. I need more coffee. I need to get back on track. But here's what's actually happening. Your baseline has just shifted. Your body has adapted to elevated cortisol, to shallow sleep cycles. Low energy just becomes normal. Brain fog just becomes normal. And because it feels familiar, you don't really question it. That's the trap. I've had a founder say to me that I was working with that I'm still performing, but I'm just not sharp as I used to be. And he was still closing deals, still showing up to every meeting, still hitting the numbers, but he felt like he was losing his edge that got him there. His responses in meetings were a bit slower, and his decision-making was taking a bit longer. Now, in business, that's a big deal. And he told me he had to pass on 2 partnerships that quarter because he just simply did not have the mental clarity to evaluate them properly. That is what burnout could cost at a very high level, not collapse. Quiet, expensive decline. Once we addressed his recovery systemically, his sharpness came back in about 6 weeks' time. Burnout is not about working too much. It's about never coming down. The stress stacks. So you have work stress, you have training stress, you have life stress, you have sleep deprivation, you have blood sugar instability. Your body doesn't separate them. It just adds them all together and it builds up. And if recovery doesn't match, well, your system stays elevated. So what do we do about this? Well, recovery, I would say, is not passive. It has to be intentional. Sleep, 7.5 to 8 hours for men, upwards to 9 hours for women. That's not negotiable. This is where your hormones reset and your nervous system repairs. Stabilizing blood sugar. Do not skip your meals. That causes you to crash or, at the end of the day, stuff your face with all this food, and that can keep cortisol elevated when it shouldn't be. Match your training stress with your life stress. So a brutal gym session on top of a brutal work week is not discipline. That's just more stress on top of more stress, and your system's already overloaded. Balance that out. I'm not saying not to push yourself hard in the gym. I'm just saying you don't need to go 1,000% in the gym when you went 1,000% during the day at work. Reduce constant stimulation. Your phone is stress input. So all the notifications, the emails, the scrolling, it all counts. I'm not saying that's not important, just create a time to put that away. And that leads me into the 4th point, which is create real shutdown periods. Your body needs a time to actually shut down and realize that you can rest and relax. Your body just won't do it on its own if you don't give it a time to get into that rest and digest nervous system. So you have to be intentional about it. So in practice, here's what a high stress day could look like. You lower the gym intensity a bit. Again, I'm not saying going to 0, but don't go 1,000%. You maybe walk after dinner to decompress and improve digestion. Allow the rest and digest nervous system to kick in. You eat in a way that stabilizes your energy. You get off your phone a bit earlier and not do it while you're laying in bed to disrupt your melatonin production. You prioritize sleep over everything else. That way, this brings your whole system back down. And that is what most people never really do. You don't need to work less. You need to recover from the level that you are performing at. Burnout is not the cost of success. It's the result of a system that just that's not supported. And when you fix the system, everything changes. Energy returns, sleep improves, fat loss becomes easier because you're not stuffing your face because you're stressed out all the time. Focus sharpens, and not because you work harder, but because your body is no longer stuck in that fight or flight nervous system.